The Differently Brained team acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we record, edit, and stream this podcast. We pay our respects to all First Nations peoples and their elders past, present, and future. We extend our respect to all First Nations cultures and recognise their ongoing connection to the lands, waterways, and communities.
Just a reminder that Differently Brained shares conversations about mental health and neurodivergence. Sometimes these topics can get a bit heavy, so please remember to check in with yourself before listening. And as always, please reach out for help if our chats have brought anything up for you. Now, on with the show.
Hello, and welcome to Differently Brained, the podcast where no brain is the same. I'm Jacinta Dietrich.
And I'm some guy under a blanket in my bedroom again, called Lachlan Rutherford. How are you going today, everyone? And how are you, Jacinta?
I'm good. I'm sad that we're back under the blankets in our house rather than in the state library, but that is okay. I'll just crouch so that the blanket doesn't touch me on the head. And sorry, everyone, for the not so crisp audio quality.
But, you know, we've had a taste of the wonderful state library sound. We've had a bit of a sample of that, and so have you. So now you'll know what you're missing, so that then when the time comes that I'm, like, proximal to the state library again, it'll just be like Christmas all over again. Second Christmas, if you will.
I don't know if that's how it's going to feel, or if they're all just going to be sad and cranky that we sound like shit again.
Nah.
Because, I would be...
I'm trying to engineer some kind of sympathy.
Yeah, force that goodwill.
But that's all beside the point, because we're just talking today, Jacinta, about you. God, what a treat.
Aren't we always?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about you, and we're going to be talking about your recent adventure to the capital city of New South Wales.
Yeah.
Known to many as Sydney. How about you?
Known to many, indeed.
So, Jacinta, why did you go to Sydney? Why were you there? Why would you even bother going? Sorry to everyone in Sydney.
Just for lols, you know. No.
Oh, yeah?
So I don't know if we've actually spoken about it much on the podcast. We've probably mentioned it, but I don't know if we dug into it. Maybe we have, maybe we haven't. But I'm doing my PhD at the moment through UTS, University of Technology of Sydney. I don't actually know how many ofs is in there, but UTS. And I went to Sydney because 2 of my 3 PhD supervisors are located in Sydney. They live up there, and I'd never met them in person. So I thought, why not? And as a nice, helpful thing for all of us who haven't done a PhD before and have no idea what we're doing, there's an 8-week class that we do called Academic Research Practice. And the first and last classes of that are hybrid. So you can either be online or you can come to campus. So I lined it all up so that, you know, I went to the class to meet everybody else who's starting to do a PhD at the same time now, so that I have some PhD buddies, some friends, meet my supervisors in person, went and saw some lovely friends of mine and friends of the podcast, Ashley Collagen Blunt, Simon McCarthy, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so a study, work, friend trip, I would say.
Nice. That sounds fantastic. And also, let's not gloss over the fact that you're doing a PhD, which is like, that in and of itself is an impressive feat. Forget the Sydney stuff for a moment. Let's talk about PhD stuff. You're officially the smartest person in our friends group. How does that make you feel?
Look, I don't know if, you know, that seems a bit harsh, and I feel bad for, you know, our shared mutual friends.
That's just what you have to say to make them feel better.
I would say I'm like the smartest person in our mutual friends group. We have a lot of mutual friends now, basically, through the podcast. So, like, when you say mutual friends now, I think, you know, obviously our undergrad uni friends, who I assume you're referring to, but, like, you know.
Oh, no, I mean everyone. I mean all of the people.
Pretty dramatic. Well, some of our mutual friends already have a PhD, so, you know, they're ahead of me there. But no, I'm really, really loving it. I didn't realize someone pointed it out to me the other day that it's we got the dates wrong, but we thought it was 12 months. It's actually been 13 months since I was made redundant.
Mm-hmm.
And just the dramatic change in my life and how happy I am and things like that. It was incredibly bumpy for a bit, but
Yeah.
the PhD is just such a joy and a privilege, and I love it so much. I'm a month and a bit in, and it's absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love doing it. And, you know, if it means that you think I'm your smartest friend, that's also pretty sweet. Because, you know, obviously egomaniac over here, whew, she loves it.
Yeah, that's in fact, everyone. This whole episode was Jacinta's idea. I didn't actually pitch it to her at all. That's a lie.
I don't even know if okay, because I was like, it might be true. I don't remember.
Nah, I'm pretty sure that I said, "Can we do an episode about your adventures in Sydney?" Because it seemed only fair that I did an adventure to Melbourne episode. So let's just go through the capital cities of the country.
Of course.
So first of all, how about the university itself? What did you actually do aside from catch up with your supervisors and whatnot? What did you do on campus?
It was so lovely. So I keep saying to everybody who asks me literally anything about it, I'm not sure if it's that I didn't know what support was on offer when I did my undergrad and my master's, or whether those unis didn't have the support, or just PhD students, higher degree research students get so much more support. I don't know what the case is, but everyone was so lovely. So because of who I am as a person, I absolutely packed my days. So I got up there on Wednesday afternoon and was meant to have dinner with my supervisor, but we were both absolutely fried because airplanes aren't my fave thing and airports are even less my fave thing. So I did a bit of grocery shopping, settled in, things like that. Then Thursday was bonkers. It was so good, but so much. So I got up in the morning, fancy gal that I am, got on the train, got to UTS, met with my lovely supervisor, Boover. She walked me around the FASS, the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences areas. She bought me a coffee with a nice lady. She introduced me to like 50 different people whose names I'm embarrassed to say that I've forgotten because she just knows absolutely everyone. Then she took me on a little tour. Then she dropped me at the library where I had organised to have a little tour and a consult with a UTS librarian, because if you're a PhD student at UTS, you can book in an hour-long consult with faculty librarians to like answer all your questions and help you and stuff. So lovely David walked me around what felt like millions of levels of the library and, you know, showed me what to do if I am physically there and need a book, because they have an underground archive that you can request books from and a robot goes and gets it and then a librarian brings it to you. Very cool. I know. This whole episode is going to sound like a UTS ad. It's not. I'm just having a great time. So, you know, got a little tour. The library is beautiful. It's big glass windows and lots of natural light and so many study spaces and plants just everywhere. And, you know, everyone thinks I'm really dumb, but I keep getting excited about the plants because I'm like, you're on a balcony on the 10th floor and there's plants that are like in the ground. Like not in the ground, but like, you know, do you know what I mean? Like
they're planted on the ground floor. And they go all the way. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's what? How big do you think trees are? Calm down.
They can be big, man.
I mean, like you're walking on level 10, right? And instead of like a tree being in an above floor pot, it's like in the floor, like a garden bed. Like that was the floor. Do you know what I mean? So that means like in between levels or some shit, there's just like dirt or something. I don't know. No one else was impressed by this. I'm bamboozled by the science of it, where I'm like, where's the dirt? Where's the roots?
Well, as you and I know, you are a plant person.
It's correct. I am both a girl interested in plants and also a plant myself.
Yes.
So, yeah, asked David a bunch of really dumb questions about libraries and things because, you know, I've never done research like this before, so I don't know what I don't know. And then I went to the faculty that I'm in we have our own little higher degree research study section that we share with the Faculty of Health, which is very fancy and very nice. There's like a kitchenette and lockers, and, you know, I obviously feel very top shit because you need the right kind of card, the right kind of student card to get in. So I beat myself in it. I'm like, ooh, special. Went there and got given my PhD work laptop. So now I have a home laptop and a work laptop, which is very nice.
What are its specs? Can you run Crysis on it? Full graphics?
It's a laptop. I don't know. It runs Word.
Probably not. Yeah, right.
Mate, it's for PhD, and I don't know. It runs Word. It runs OneDrive. It runs Excel. It's fresh and new. So a lovely IT guy set that up for me, even though I kept telling him, hey, buddy, I can probably do this. But he was like, it's my job, whatever, I'll do it, which is really nice because, you know, I don't love technology. So, like, you know, even though I could have done it, I didn't want to. And then we went to our class, which was really, really nice. And we'd already introduced ourselves a little bit on a discussion board. So we kind of had an idea of who everyone was, kind of thing. And I knew that there was someone else studying autistic women in film. And so I was very excited to meet her. And then by chance, sat next to her, which was like the best. So Sophia's my new best friend now, which was just really, really lovely to have accidentally found another autistic buddy in there and, you know, have that connection for going forwards. And then we had a little welcome thing where they put on a bit of a spread and we had some food. We had some sushi and some rice paper rolls and some fish and some desserts and some juice. And we got to meet other faculty members, which was really nice.
You're friggin' part of the upper echelon now of the unit. No more goon punch and fucking cheese and bickies for you. It's
well, you know, as long as it's funded by someone else, yeah. But also, like, you know, my scholarship is essentially minimum wage. So at home, still very much goon punch and cheese and bickies. But when we go to UTS, it's rice paper rolls and sushi.
You freaking bougie bugger.
I know. And that was just Thursday. That was just one day of my time in Sydney.
All right. Before you continue, I want to interject quickly and ask, I don't know, I'm drawing a comparison between you talking about this experience and you talking about your time at the Wheeler Centre. And it seems that space, and particularly like how the space is constructed and like how it makes you feel is super important to you, as it is for many people. But it seems incredibly important to you that the particulars of the place that you're going to be working in are, I don't know, conducive or whatever. Did you find that as soon as you got there, it was like, oh, this is my place, this is my zone?
Walking from the station to UTS, no, because everyone in Sydney is really scared.
Oh yeah, we'll get to the transport section in a moment.
But basically, from when I got to the UTS campus and stuff like that, yeah, like the minute I met my supervisor in person, she gave me a huge hug. Everyone in the building is just super lovely. There's just so much natural light and greenery and plants and all of the things that, yeah, I really value in a workspace. And so, yeah, absolutely. There's just so much that's pleasant to look at. There's a lot of private areas in the higher degree research space. So, you know, you can have a little cubicle if you want to be like tucked away. There's quiet rooms if you need a room to yourself with like a full door and stuff. There's open plan bits if you're like having a chat and things like that. So yeah, I tuck myself away in one of the little nooks. And because it's kind of on like the corner of the building, I guess, all the windows kind of point out to different things. And so there's one laneway where there's like a light. They're like light fixtures, but they look kind of like jellyfish. And so whenever I'm there, I try and go sit there. And so I can see these hovering light jellyfishy things, and no one can see me because I'm tucked in my little cubicle and I'm working, and it's great. But yes, the environment is something that I have noticed that I'm a bit particular about. Before
Yeah.
we did this episode, I did an interview with someone else for their uni research studies about autistic women in the workplace.
Mhm.
And yeah, it came up a lot that I need to either be comfortable or in control of the environment that I'm working or studying in.
Yeah.
Because, obviously, if I'm already comfortable, that's great. But if I'm not, at least if I'm in control, I can fix some of it. But yeah, it turns out the environment is indeed very important to me.
Who'd have thought? Who'd have
Hmm.
thought? So yeah, continue, please, about the day after Thursday, continuing onto Friday.
Oh, the rest isn't as PhD based kind of thing. So I saw some delightful friends. On the Friday, I did meet with my other supervisor, Kirsty, who was just super lovely and wonderful and super nice. She is part of the Disability Research Network at UTS. So, she comes from both a disability studies angle in terms of supporting me in my research, but then also knows all about the accessibility things that the uni has to offer. So that's helpful for me as an autistic ADHD gal. And then the rest of the time, I was just meeting with friends. Met with a Nikki, met with Ashley, met with Simon. That's what the rest of my days looked like in Sydney.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, that's really great, but it was a positive experience as far as, meeting with people and being at the uni was concerned. But let's talk maybe a little bit about the experience of being in Sydney itself and navigating an entirely new city with slightly different public transport, with slightly different, sensory things. How did you find, and you know what I'm hinting at here with the with the sensory stuff. How did you find navigating Sydney? Let's start with the airport, actually. You mentioned not liking airports.
Well, the airport wasn't actually that bad on the way out, kind of thing. So, I'm used to Melbourne Airport now because that's, where I've departed from a few times, kind of thing. And it is a lot of open space and there is a lot of spots to sit down and charge your things and stuff like that. So I'm okay generally now with Melbourne Airport because it's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting out of Sydney Airport from departures wasn't actually too bad because you just kind of wander out and through all the bits, and then there's a lot of signage to the trains. So that was okay.
You're listening, Melbourne? To the train from the airport. Yeah. Anyway.
I gotta say, it was pretty sweet, but I would say the counter thing is that the Sydney airport has a specific extra service charge or access charge or some shit, which means it ends up costing you $20 anyway.
Yeah, it's
which
shit.
Is essentially what an Uber costs me from my house to Melbourne Airport. So I'm like, well, it's much of a muchness for me, where I'm just like, well, fuck it. So manage that. And I know the juicy part that you want to get to. Sydney trains stink. Why do they smell like that? So I'd already had a bit of navigation. So I got to the train thing and I'd already done a bunch of research about do I need an Opal card, blah, blah, blah. And I just wasn't totally sure and understanding. And I kept reading the website and then talking to people who've been to Sydney, like you and stuff. And everyone was like, you can use your debit card. And I was like, okay. But sometimes some of the website content was a bit confusing. And I was like, do I need to do something to make it work or whatever? Stood outside the gates for probably 10 minutes just watching what everyone else was doing. Went over to one of their top-up machines to see if they were ours down here where you can buy a Mikey from the machine. You can't up there. You buy an Opal card from a person or online and they mail it to you, which I obviously didn't organize. And I was absolutely not talking to an extra person after 4 hours of airport and then travel because I get to airports ridiculously early and such. And so I gave it a whirl, it was pretty bold of me because there was people behind me. And if it hadn't have worked, that would have been absolutely horrifying. So I was very proud of myself that I was like, okay, no, just try with your card. You'll be fine. It's okay. Let me through. And then I go on the train and it stinks. They are double-decker, which I do dig. That is very fun. Though I don't know why, just my immediate instinct was go down every single time. So I think I only ended up on the top level once.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
which maybe, so initially I thought that was part of the smell issue, but it's not, because then I went on the top level and it still stank. But yeah, Sydney trains reek. And maybe Melbourne trains do too, and I've just not noticed, or I'm desensitized to it, but like Sydney trains stink.
Well,
But
what-
they were pretty easy to get around. That being said, I only had to use like a few. Like I only needed to learn like 4 train stations.
I'm just trying to think, like, I've used New South Wales rail services more than I used Melbourne services. But I'm trying to remember because my sense of smell is just dog shit. I can't smell many things. I'm trying to remember if there was anything distinct about Melbourne public transport that stood out. And I can't think of anything. But like, what was this is now a sensory episode again. What was the smell like?
I did extensive sniffing.
So you did it to yourself,
and
basically.
I had so many high hopes that I would go to Sydney and I would make all of this amazing social media content and I would take everyone with me and it would be awesome. And the only things that I documented in terms of privately, like took photos of, and then also because they were the only things I had shared online, was my train rankings. I didn't get a photo with any of my friends. I didn't get a photo of any of UTS. I didn't get a photo with any of my supervisors. I got nothing but photos of my own face reacting to Sydney train experiences. It's so bad. I'm so disappointed. I've categorized them into 3 main smells.
Okay.
So consistently the trains either smelt 1, bit musty and damp, like it was damp and it never fully dried properly and then it's just got that smell, but it wasn't wet. It was just like old and
like Lismore after the floods.
Yeah, but a little less muddy, like not muddy, just musty.
Yeah, right.
Damp and like probably a bit fungusy, if I'm honest. Like there's probably some mold issues. It was just, so damp and musty. Or, and this one, like Lucas asked me to describe it, and I genuinely don't have a good, but like kind of like funky, meaty. Like it wasn't like, oh, it smelled like shit or it smelled like, BO or anything kind of thing. It smelled just kind of like,
I hate that so much. I hate the fact that it smelled funky, meaty. Because I'm trying to imagine what that would smell like, and it's activating my gag reflex. Yuck.
Yeah, look, it wasn't great. I personally found the musty smell more overwhelming and difficult to deal with, though.
Mm-hmm.
So at least I think, the musty smell was stronger. The funky, it just smelled kind of like a grunty, just like, I don't understand. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was just
actually
disgusting.
This is probably not the smell at all. It definitely isn't the smell at all. But when I was in New York for like all of 20 minutes, the smell there in the streets was indescribable. Like the only way that I can describe it is by making a noise like that's all I can do to describe it. Yeah. So I get it.
And then the closest to pleasant smell, I guess, was I didn't catch any peak hour trains or anything. I didn't catch any public transport that wasn't a train or the metro, by the way, because I will not. Like, I don't do buses or trams here, so I'm not figuring out what your fucking light rail is, Sydney. Don't. Also, why do you have coaches and buses? What the fuck does that mean? Like, why is there so many options? Anyways, it's very overwhelming. But the closest to nice smelling that Sydney trains got was about maybe half an hour after peak hour. It just kind of smelled like everyone's like kind of perfume and shampoo and soap and stuff. So like clearly, most of Sydney is morning showerers, I would assume, or at least they spritz themselves down or something, because that wasn't too bad. And some days that was actually like a bit nice, but sometimes the smells merged together and it wasn't a vibe. But at least everyone's clean in the morning is the takeaway, I guess. It's just by the afternoon, they stink.
They smell of funky meat, yeah.
Correct, yeah. Every single person in Sydney, by the end of the day, smells like funky meat. Pretty sure that's the takeaway here. But yeah, everyone.
Watch our listening numbers in the capital cities of the country be skewed in a very particular way after this episode.
Well, if I think off the top of my head, we only have like 3 Sydney listeners that I know.
Screw them. Bugger them then.
Exactly. So like, it's fine. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
And like, you know, they, to my knowledge, quite enjoyed the train content. That was the other confusing thing. So many people replied and talked to me about my train content.
Huh.
So many people slid into my DMs to either shit on Sydney's public transport network or to talk about how the trains stink.
Wow.
Like, it's a thing. People were like, yeah, no, and I'm sorry for like our stinky people. Don't come back in summer. And I was like, Jesus.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, it was pretty funny. I didn't expect that to be content that went off, but the people enjoyed it.
So going from train situations and train experiences to now your accommodation, and I was sent some videos and pictures from you, and I watched the video without sound at first. And I thought, oh yeah, this is fine. This is okay. I mean, I turned the sound on and heard construction work going on, which was probably just fantastic for you trying to chill out. Tell us a little bit about your time at the hotel. Obviously, don't name the hotel.
So I done goofed, and to be fair, I didn't book my accommodation until like a week before I left. So, you know, it's Sydney. It's busy generally, I assume. I don't know, but like pickings were slim. And like, to be fair, I think they said something about construction noise on the website, and I just completely disregarded it because I was just like, whatever, which fucking idiot. So right outside my bathroom window was some construction noise, which I didn't go and explore until like the Sunday before I was leaving on the Monday. But it looks like they had a heritage building that they were pulling apart the back of but keeping the facade. And so from 8 o'clock in the morning to about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon on weekdays, there was construction noise. And I was like, yeah, sure. But like, it was like jackhammering. Like, it wasn't just like a bit of construction noise. It was like construction noise. Yeah. And, you know, obviously I'm a bit of a stingy bitch, so I didn't like fork out for a very impressive hotel room with soundproofing. So like, I could hear it. I could feel it. But, and there was a fan in the bathroom that effectively, like, even if the window was closed, meant that the sound came in because it was just a fan with holes. But I'm very proud of myself. One, because I was very resilient and I dealt with it very well, I would say. I only had a minor freak out on the first night I got there and, you know, struggled a bit. But I just rolled up a towel and made my own little door snake thing and played white noise really, really loudly so I could go to sleep. Boom, I was fine.
In messages that you sent me, you said that you MacGyvered the solution.
Absolutely. That's the verb. That's the only verb I use for when I do something brilliant with a different material. Yeah. So it was okay, actually. It was very overwhelming when I got there, and it was, you know, a bit difficult the next day to know how early it started and things like that because I'm a bit of a sleeper in a gal. But to be fair, both on the Thursday and Friday, I had to get up relatively early for me to get to UTS and the places I was going anyway. So it wasn't too bad. And then on the Saturday, it only went for like 4 hours from like, I don't know, 9 till 1 or something. So it wasn't too bad overall. And I'm very proud of myself for
I'm proud of you too. I absolutely would not have been able to handle such a thing. So, kudos to you, mate.
Thank you. It was exposure therapy for future travels.
Yes.
So now I'm like, okay, I handled that. Any other accommodation blips, surely I can handle them because, like, it's fine. Yeah.
And also, it's like a lesson really in booking hotels as well as resilience training.
This is very true. I am planning on returning to Sydney at the end of next month, and I have already started looking at accommodation this time because I'm not
hey,
going
hey,
to.
audience! Hey, audience! Did you know that Jacinta has made a spreadsheet of the different hotels and their pros and cons and their websites that I have had a look at, and several other people have had a look at to determine whether or not it's appropriate.
Hear
That's
me out. Hear me out. Okay, I need the spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet's not even as detailed as I want it to be.
holy shit! Really?
Because when I'm staying in accommodation, there are a lot of factors because of just who I am as a person. So obviously, as I stated, I'm a stingy bitch. So it can't be, I'm not taking out a second mortgage to go and stay in Sydney. So it's got to be pretty cheap. Otherwise, I feel pretty sad about it, especially given that, like I said, I'm on minimum wage with the PhD. And, it's a lot of work. So I'm not doing that much freelancing or anything because it is a full time job. So, first, it's got to be cheap. Then, it's got to be relatively accessible to UTS. And I don't want to catch a ferry, a bus, a coach, or a light rail. So it needs to be essentially near a metro station or a train station or within walking distance to UTS itself, I guess. So, that limits the suburbs that I'm willing to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Then,
no, this is all really good. Like, even though I was making fun of you, like, this is good research to do. Yeah.
So, there's those two things: price, location, and accessibility to transport. Then, because, I'm a private and nervous, anxious gal, an autistic ADHD gal. So, I need to be able to control my space and use it as I need. So, I don't do shared bathrooms. I know that would drop the price heaps. But because I have such a terrible understanding of my bodily cues. I don't know when I need to pee until I'm laying down in bed and then I'm like, oh, I need to pee. And it's already enough of a hassle to get up and go to another room. I genuinely don't think I could get up and leave my hotel room and go to a shared bathroom where I'm potentially going to bump into people or have to have the social situation. I'd have to put clothes fully on. I do sleep in pajamas anyway, but I don't know, what if they're too crappy and I feel like I need to put a jumper on? It just feels like there's a lot of extra pressure there in terms of sharing a bathroom with other guests. And then, and this is the only place that I get negotiable, which is not ideal. I'd prefer for it to have a microwave because, again, I'm never going to use a shared kitchen situation. I know that I won't use a shared kitchen situation because I've been in positions like at KSP. There was a fully functional shared kitchen there. And I didn't use it once in the 2 weeks that I was there because that just didn't feel comfortable or safe for me.
Yeah.
I already don't really love cooking. I'm often confused by where stuff goes and the etiquette around cooking and then cleaning stuff. And I know the answer is, you cook and then you wash everything you've used kind of thing. But when there's a dishwasher and the whole if it's clean, empty it, if it's dirty, turn it on situation, I don't know how people pack dishwashers and I don't know when it's full and simple things like that yes, I should probably just chill out. They're probably not that big of a deal, but also they absolutely are a big deal and I'm not changing that. So yeah, a microwave in my little accommodation is helpful because it means that I actually eat food instead of if it's only got, coffee and tea making facilities in your room, just a kettle. I will absolutely probably just live on 2-minute noodles and junk the whole time. Whereas, with the microwave, I was able to have dumplings and I was able to make myself crappy versions of nachos with tins of things. And I was able to make, those ready-made pastas and stuff like that. And so I eat healthier than I would if I didn't have it. And it also saves me money because then I don't have to go out and buy food every night. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of elements that I'm looking for, and I understand that all those elements generally come with a price tag, and that's why I end up in dodgier construction work accommodation.
I just thought of something as you were saying that. Imagine if, and it wouldn't cost that much. Don't at me, everyone, about the logistics of doing this. I don't care. But imagine if they started fitting hotel rooms with air fryers.
Oh, mate. Game changer.
Yeah.
Absolute game changer. Oh.
Because that's the go-to. And you don't hear it anyway. That's just what I thought of.
I do love me an air fryer.
I know this. I love me an air fryer as well. Anyway, this is off topic. I want to talk to you about the thing outside of your hotel room, if you don't mind. And prepare yourselves, everyone, because it's not what you think.
All right. So this was very hit and miss in terms of people who came to visit me and then also the people that I've shared it with afterwards. Some people thought it was great, hilarious, very funny. Other people genuinely a bit worried for my safety and what I put myself in. So I was on the second level, and like on the first landing, you know, you'd get halfway up and there was just like clear plastic on the carpet. And they did mention that they were doing some upgrades to some of the rooms as well. So I was like, okay, fine, sure. And then I got to my level and the plastic on the carpet was blue, kind of like masking tape kind of thing, but like big strips of it. And so I was like, oh, that's weird. And I walked 2 steps and there's, in black texture, there's one of those corpse outline things. You know the ones that you see in movies? And so, like, obviously on the first night, I was like, holy shit, oh my God, what the fuck is this? And then it just became a hilarious joke. And it's totally fine, and I was totally safe, and everything was good. And, like, it wasn't real, probably.
Maybe.
Like,
who knows? Really?
We don't do that over here, I don't think. I asked Ashley Collegian Blunt, crime writer and crime connoisseur, because she came. She was one of the people who absolutely loved it. She took a photo. She laughed. She was thrilled. And she said that that's not a thing here. Also, it was missing its hands.
Might have had them cut off.
Right. Well, yeah. Essentially, when you got to my floor, there was an outline of a body on the covering of the carpet, which Ashley thought was great and Simon was very upset about.
Yes.
And I thought was just a bit quirky by the end.
Yes, Simon's was outside your room. There had been a murder.
Well, not outside my room.
Oh, outside in your corridor or whatever.
Yeah, I was at least like 4 rooms away from the suspected murder spot. So, like, that's fine. Safe. Yeah, exactly. Was it the nicest place I've ever stayed? No. Did it give me a lot of great stories? Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm most happy with my experience.
Speaking of being happy with your experience overall, how did it affect you once you got back home? What was the aftermath like?
Oh, I slept for like 3 days straight. So,
which is fair. You did heaps.
Yeah. So, like, I did heaps and I hadn't, like, fatigue crashed while I was up there, and I'd done a lot of socializing that I don't normally do. So I was like, okay, and I was expecting it. So I hadn't planned things for, like, the next 3 days that I got home, which was probably smart and lucky. But, yeah, getting home was a lot harder than getting there. I think I'd focused so much on making sure that I was ready to travel that I hadn't given as much thought to traveling home. And I find Sydney Airport a lot harder than Melbourne Airport. So where Melbourne Airport is very big and open and, you know, it's kind of got the shops and the food court and stuff around the outside of the tables, Sydney's is all like this fucking maze thing where, like, you know, all the seats with the power adapters and stuff are in amongst all of the, like, food, and it's all very narrow and long and weird. And then there's big open places, but they don't have PowerPoints and stuff, which are fine if you don't need your devices, but you know, or aren't using them. But
this is 2024. Everyone uses devices, actually.
Well, that's it. Well, 1, everyone uses devices, and 2, when I'm traveling and I can only have carry-on because I didn't have checked because I didn't think I'd need it. My devices are also my sensory tools. Do you know what I mean? Like they're the things that I use to fidget with or distract myself with, or I have my breathing apps on there, or I have an app that just vibrates in my hand at a regular pattern so it keeps me kind of grounded. So not only does everyone use their devices and everyone wants them for whatever they're doing, but also like those are my assistive technology now to be able to navigate things, experiences that I need help sensory regulating and, emotionally regulating with. So sitting in those nicer places wasn't necessarily an option for me because I felt like I needed my devices more than I needed to not be in that space. But it was all right. I survived. My grandma actually walked past by accident. So I ended up not using my devices and sitting and having a coffee with her, which was really nice because she'd just come back from a Europe trip.
What's the deal with your grandmother appearing at places you don't expect her? She was at the airport. She was at the book launch that you compared. What's going on?
She's just obsessed with me, obviously.
Yeah.
No, it was such a lucky coincidence. I'd forgotten that she was flying home from Sydney on the same day. And yeah, she was flying to the other Melbourne airport. So we weren't on the same plane. But yeah, she walked past and I had to chase her down because she, wasn't paying attention and wasn't expecting to hear her name or anything. But that was a really lovely part. And that helped me deal with the airport coming back. But yeah, coming back, the flight was delayed a lot. So I think, it was an extra hour in the terminal. Sydney doesn't have as much seating space at the gates, I guess, or at least not at the gate I was at. When I went to Melbourne Airport, this was my first time traveling with the Sunflower lanyard, the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower lanyard. And when I went to the Melbourne Jetstar crew, like everyone was super lovely, by the way, both Sydney and Melbourne. I can't fault them. But when I, went to Melbourne, I said, hey, look, I have a hidden disability. I'd really appreciate it if I could board, be one of the first people to board. I don't even have to board first, just if I can be one of the first people because I can't stand up for long periods of time in one spot and I just really need to just get myself settled and stuff. And they were like, absolutely not a problem here. And they have priority seating. So they had specific seats set aside for, the people that had accessibility needs so that one, you're right there when they're ready to go. And two, they can check in with you. They can support. While we were waiting in Melbourne, they asked, how are you doing? Do you need anything else? Will you need anything on the plane? And they really made sure that if I was going to need supports or anything else on the flight as well, that they had all the details early on and that they could explain everything to me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at Sydney, I did the same thing. So I got to the gate and, because I'd hung out with my lovely grandmother at her gate, by the time I got to mine, all of the seats were taken and I went up to the desk and did the whole, hey, did the spiel. And she was like, yep, cool. Well, when boarding is called, just, come to the front of the line and let us know. And I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up sitting on the ground for an hour because the flight was delayed and stuff because there wasn't enough chairs for their whole flight and they didn't have a priority seating area or a reserved area. And I didn't feel comfortable kicking anyone else out of their seats. There was a bunch of other people sitting on the ground. I wasn't going to do that. And I have a lot of circulation issues. So I kept losing feeling in my legs and stuff like that. And then when it came time to board, they announced that it's time to board. And I had to walk past all of these people in line to do it. Whereas, at Melbourne, I didn't have to look like I was cutting the line. Do you know what I mean? It was, they let us on before they'd announced that boarding had commenced kind of thing, rather than telling everyone boarding's commenced. And after a delayed flight already, everyone was really mad and everyone was really rushing. And so it just made that experience kind of awkward. So all of the staff were absolutely lovely. That is no reflection on any of them. Everything everyone did, I didn't feel judged or anything at all. It was just the infrastructure of Sydney Airport
It's
just sucks a
Yeah.
bit more. And, you know, even for the accommodations that the airlines do have, it makes it hard to implement in the best way because, like, I'm not sure if I would flag that again now coming out of Sydney Airport because I very much did not enjoy what a lot of people looked like cutting the line. Yeah, sorry, this derailed, but basically I got home and getting home was a much harder experience. And I then, slept almost literally, like, it's not even a joke. I think I woke up for meal times for the first 2 days. I would have slept probably 18 hours of the 24 for the first 2 days that I was back, and then only started to be able to function and do things at closer to my normal level by like the Thursday when I got back on the Monday afternoon.
Right. But that's kind of good though, because like for when you go back next time, and that is something that's going to be happening, as you said, at the end of the month, you'll be able to realize, okay, there's going to be a period of time, and you may have already figured this out before you came back anyway, but like there's going to be a period of time where nothing happens when you get back, and that's okay. That's like recharging time. Had you figured that out beforehand, or was this like a lesson this time?
I knew that I was going to need at least one day. And so, you know, I was mindful of that, and I was okay that I knew that I would probably be tired. And I think I was just so stoked that I didn't crash while I was up there.
Yeah.
That I was honestly just relieved that I had made it through, and then only felt exhausted when I got home. So I definitely planned for one day. I hadn't planned for it to be 2 or 3 days kind of thing. I did think I would bounce back faster, and I did think, because the third day wasn't as much sleeping, but it was still a lot of brain fog and stuff. So I was awake. I just wasn't able to do a lot of the like life admin that I had to catch up on, and the emails and the, you know, this, that, and the other that I wanted to do, and, you know, the stuff that I wanted to action after Sydney and sending emails and all of that crap. I expected to be able to do that by like the Wednesday kind of thing. I thought, you know, I would be absolutely wrecked on Monday night, and then I would sleep all of Tuesday, and then by Wednesday I'd be fresh and good to go. And so that took me a bit by surprise that it took a little bit longer to bounce back to normal rather than a surprise that I'd crashed kind of thing. I was just, because normally I have either like really bad days or basically fine days. And so to have that weird middle one where I couldn't really do much, but I was awake, that was a bit of a new experience for me. But now I know for next time.
But also, you might even surprise yourself in the other way, because while it was a surprising thing that you didn't crash while you were in Sydney, it could be that over time it could become a shorter period of time between crashing and then coming out of that kind of thing for next time.
Hopefully. And like, you know, I did plan it so that, you know, if I did have a big crash, you know, I'd packed my Thursday, like I didn't plan, well I did, but then it was chill stuff to cancel on the Wednesday because I know that my travel days I can't organize anything on. And then I packed my Thursday and knew that my Friday was going to be bigger than like my Saturday and Sunday as well kind of thing. So I'd made it so that it was front heavy in case I did crash at the end of it, so that then I would crash before my next travel day so that I wasn't absolutely terrible for the flight back. So I tried to balance.
Yeah. And overall, the whole trip up to Sydney, to a new city, well, not new necessarily for you, because I'm assuming you've been to Sydney many times before.
No, I think the last time I went to Sydney was literally like high school.
Oh,
like,
holy shit. Okay.
I don't go to Sydney. It's been a long time.
Yeah, right.
I visited a friend when she was in her undergrad, and we're the same age, and she did her undergrad around the same time. So it's probably been close to a decade since I was last in Sydney proper.
Okay. Well,
and like I don't generally love it.
I mean, that even goes to show, like, even if it's not new necessarily, it's been a while and you were able to adapt and get to a point where you're talking positively for the most part, aside from the smelly trains in the hotel, in a positive way, you know? And I'm assuming looking forward to going back again.
Indeed. I think I surprised myself with how well I coped and how I was able to work with the curveballs, but I also think I set up a lot of supports so that, I know what to expect, and I had a lot of people to rely on and reach out to if things were hard.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely looking forward to going back.
Mate, I'm glad that you had a good time, and I'm so stoked that you're doing this PhD. With all of my bullshit about being the smartest person and everything, I think that you should be hyped to the nth degree.
Thanks, buddy.
That's okay.
Yay.
Yay. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today, Jacinta. So go away, please.
Okay, bye.
See ya.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us for another episode of Differently Brained. If you want to learn more about something that we talked about today, head to our show notes. If you want to hang out with us, yay, thanks! You can join our private Facebook group where we chat all things podcast, mental health, and neurodivergence in a safe and warm community. If Facebook isn't your thing, fair enough. You can find us on Instagram at Differently Brained Podcast. And while you're there, Lachlan and I would also love a follow on our personal pages too if you're in the mood. If you want to get in touch with us via email, we are differentlybrainedpodcast@gmail.com.
Differently Brained shares the opinions of individuals and does not consider your personal circumstances. Differently Brained exists purely for information purposes and should not be relied on as health or medical advice. Because no brain is the same, please consult your healthcare professional for your personal medical needs.